Alex sat quietly in the dimly lit control room of the research station, his eyes focused on the monitor. The station was located on a remote moon, light years away from Earth. Its mission was to study deep space signals and explore unexplored regions of the galaxy. As the chief scientist, Alex spent long hours analyzing data, trying to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Today, something was different. A strange signal had appeared on his radar, an anomaly that didn't fit the usual patterns. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if it was just another glitch in the system. But no, this signal was persistent, repeating in a sequence that made no sense. It was unlike anything he had encountered before. Curiosity got the better of him. Alex quickly set to work, trying to pinpoint the source of the signal. His fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard, eyes glued to the screen. The signal was coming from an asteroid in the neighboring star system, a place no human had ever been to before. His heart raced. Could it be a sign of intelligent life? He had always dreamed of making such a discovery, but now that it was in front of him, he didn't know what to think. After double-checking the coordinates, Alex hesitated for a moment. The research station wasn't equipped for a journey beyond its orbit, and the asteroid was far enough to require a ship. But the thrill of the unknown pushed him forward. He sent a quick message to the station's command, requesting permission to investigate. Within minutes, he received approval, and the excitement surged in his chest. Alex quickly suited up and prepared a shuttle for the journey. As he ascended into the cold, empty void of space, the stars seemed to shine even brighter. His heart was pounding, both from the anticipation and the isolation that came with space travel. He had done this many times before, but this time felt different. The possibility of meeting another civilization filled him with awe. The journey to the asteroid took several hours, but the moment he arrived, Alex could sense something extraordinary. The asteroid was much larger than he expected, with a strange, smooth surface that didn't match the typical jagged features of most space rocks. The signal had led him here, but now he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a random discovery. As Alex floated closer, his shuttle's sensors picked up a hidden structure inside the asteroid, buried beneath layers of rock. He gasped. There was no way humans could have built something like this. It looked ancient, yet advanced in a way he couldn't understand. The shuttle's engines hummed as Alex cautiously approached the entrance. The structure opened up in front of him, like a giant door made of metal and light. With a deep breath, Alex steered the shuttle inside. The interior was vast and dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of alien technology that seemed to pulse with energy. Alex cautiously made his way out of the shuttle and onto the surface of the alien structure. As he moved deeper, he felt a presence. Something was watching him. The air felt thick with tension. He wasn't alone. That's when he saw her. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and graceful. She had an otherworldly aura about her. Her skin was a shimmering shade of silver, her eyes glowing a soft violet hue. She wore a form-fitting suit of unknown material that seemed to shimmer with every movement. Alex froze, unsure of what to do. His mind raced, but he couldn't form a single coherent thought. He had read stories of first contact, of the excitement and fear that would come with meeting an alien species, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The woman tilted her head, studying him with a curious expression. There was no hostility in her gaze, only an intensity that made Alex feel both small and important at the same time. She spoke, her voice soft and melodic. "We might be different, but I still love you, human," she said, her words resonating deeply in his chest. Alex blinked, his mind struggling to process what he had just heard. Love. She loved him. How could she? They were so different. She wasn't even human. His mouth went dry as he tried to find his voice. What do you mean?" he stammered. The alien woman took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. "We have watched you for a long time. Your species is unlike anything we've encountered before. Your potential is limitless." Alex swallowed, his heart racing. The woman's words didn't make sense. Love, a species as advanced as hers, calling him human and speaking of love. He wasn't sure whether to feel flattered or terrified. She seemed to sense his confusion, and her expression softened. I know it's hard to understand, but in time you will see. We are not so different after all. You will learn the truth. Before he could respond, the woman turned and walked back into the shadows of the structure. Alex stood there, frozen, trying to process everything. His heart was still racing, but now it was filled with more questions than answers. What had just happened? Why had she said that? And what did it mean for humanity? The silence of the asteroid was deafening as Alex stood alone, his mind reeling from the encounter. He had come to discover the unknown, but what he had found was far more than he had ever expected. In the distance, the shuttle waited, but Alex knew that his journey had only just begun. He had just met an alien, and she had left him more confused than ever. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger. Alex sat in his small quarters aboard the research station, staring at the data he had collected from his recent encounter. The signal that led him to the asteroid was still fresh in his mind, but more pressing than the signal itself was the mysterious alien woman's words. We might be different, but I still love you, human. The more he thought about it, the less he understood. How could she, someone so far beyond humanity, feel that way about him? He had always been a logical person, grounded in science and facts. The idea of love between two entirely different species seemed impossible. But the look in her eyes, the soft violet glow, filled with warmth and understanding, had been unmistakable. Was it possible that there was something deeper here? Something beyond mere words? Alex tried to push the thoughts aside. He had work to do. The research station was located on the edge of uncharted space, and his team was there to explore the unknown. Yet, despite his best efforts to focus on his tasks, he found his mind wandering back to her words. Lyra. That was the name she had given him. It had taken him a moment to ask, but she had simply nodded when he had spoken it aloud, confirming it. He remembered the way she had spoken about humanity with such admiration and curiosity. Her species, the Elgin, had been studying Earth for centuries, watching from afar as humanity grew, developed, and expanded into the stars. But why had Lyra singled him out? What was it about him that made her reach out? Over the next few days, Alex found himself returning to the asteroid in his mind. The structure he had discovered on the surface had been unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It was a marvel of alien technology, far more advanced than anything on Earth. The way it seemed to pulse with energy, almost alive. He couldn't stop thinking about it. It was as if the structure itself had been waiting for someone to find it. But more than the structure, it was Lyra who occupied his thoughts. She was an enigma, beautiful, intelligent, and yet so different from everything Alex had known. There was something in her that seemed both ancient and timeless, as though she had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the beginning and end of lifetimes. Yet, when she spoke to him, her voice was filled with genuine curiosity and care. It made Alex wonder if she was more than just an alien diplomat. Maybe she saw something in humanity that no one else did. The next time they spoke, it was in the control room of the station. Alex had requested an encrypted communication with Lyra, and to his surprise, she agreed. As he sat at his desk, his fingers trembling slightly, he stared at the screen waiting for her image to appear. It was odd. He had spoken to beings from other planets before, but this was different. This was personal. When Lyra's face finally appeared on the screen, Alex took a deep breath. She looked as serene and composed as ever. The soft glow of her violet eyes seemed to calm him, but there was also an intensity to her gaze, as though she could see right through him. Alex, she said, her voice as soothing as before. How are you? He cleared his throat. I'm okay. Just processing everything from our last meeting. I understand. It's a lot to take in, Lyra replied, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. "You're not used to encountering a species like mine, and our customs may seem foreign to you." "It's not just that," Alex said, his voice growing more unsure. "It's the way you spoke to me. About love. I don't understand. How could you feel that way about a human?" Lyra's expression softened, and she seemed to choose her words carefully. "You are not so different from us, Alex. Your species may be young, but you possess something that others, even those much older than you, lack. Potential." Alex felt a strange heat rise in his chest. "But I'm just one person, just a scientist on a small station. How can I represent humanity in that way?" Lyra's smile was faint but sincere. "That's the beauty of it. Humanity is unpredictable, full of contradictions. You are capable of great things, and yet you are just as capable of destruction. But what sets you apart is your ability to change, to adapt. We have been watching you for so long, Alex. We believe in your potential." His mind raced with her words. He had always seen humanity as flawed, full of mistakes and contradictions. But what if she was right? What if, despite all the faults, there was something about humans that made them special? Maybe it was their capacity to grow, to evolve, to reach for the stars despite their own limitations. "I don't know what to say," Alex admitted. "I never thought much about humanity's future. I was always focused on the science, the data. But now, I feel like I'm part of something bigger." "You are," Lyra confirmed, her voice steady and reassuring. "You are the key to something much greater, something we have been waiting for. But your journey is just beginning, Alex." The silence stretched between them for a moment, and Alex tried to make sense of everything. The words she had spoken, the way she spoke about him, it all felt surreal. He had always believed that humanity was alone in the universe, that their place in the stars was a small one. But now he wondered if Lyra was right. Could humanity's potential truly be something that would change the course of the galaxy? "I have so many questions," Alex said quietly. "Ask them," Lyra urged. "I will answer as best I can. But understand this, your future, and the future of your people, is now intertwined with ours." Alex nodded slowly. The weight of her words pressed down on him, and he felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. The unknown was vast, and now he was a part of it. But what would the future hold? What would humanity's place in the galaxy be? As their conversation ended, Alex stared at the screen, his mind buzzing with questions and possibilities. One thing was certain: Lyra was right. He had just begun a journey that would change everything. And in some strange way, it was a journey that had started with the words, "We might be different, but I still love you, human." Days turned into weeks, and Alex found himself at the center of something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. The research station was now buzzing with activity, more so than ever before. The Elgin Empire had made contact with Earth, and both sides were in the early stages of discussing what was to come. The tension was palpable, with diplomats and scientists from both sides meeting to exchange knowledge, while military leaders prepared for possible conflict. Alex had never been a part of anything like this. He was a scientist, trained to observe and analyze, not to navigate the complexities of interstellar politics. But with Lyra's words still echoing in his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was now part of something far beyond just science. The fate of humanity, and perhaps even the galaxy, seemed to hang in the balance. Lyra had warned him. The Elgin had been observing humanity for a long time, and they were divided. Some factions of the Elgin Empire saw humanity's rapid growth and expansion into space as a threat, while others, like Lyra, believed that humanity's potential could be the key to peace. Alex had seen this divide in their interactions with the Elgin. Some were eager to form an alliance with Earth, while others remained suspicious, viewing humans as unpredictable and dangerous. It was in the midst of this uncertainty that Alex found himself standing in a crowded conference room, facing representatives from both Earth and the Elgin Empire. Tensions were running high. with each side expressing their concerns about the future. Earth's diplomats spoke of the need for cooperation, for peaceful coexistence, but the Elgin military leaders were more focused on preparing for the worst. Their mistrust of humanity was evident. Alex stood at the back of the room, listening intently. His thoughts kept drifting to Lyra. She had been quiet during these discussions, always present but never fully part of the conversation. There was a subtle sadness in her eyes whenever their gazes met. She seemed torn between her duty to her people and her belief in the potential for a peaceful future with humanity. The tension in the room was suddenly interrupted by a sharp voice. "This is madness. Earth is expanding too rapidly. If we allow them to continue, we risk losing control of the galaxy." The speaker was a high-ranking Elgin officer, his voice cold and calculated. Alex's heart sank. It was clear that not all the Elgin were as open-minded as Lyra. He could feel the growing divide between the two sides, and the fear of war loomed ever closer. One of the human diplomats, a stern woman named General Hayes, stood up to respond. "The people of Earth are not a threat. We have always sought peaceful exploration. We've never initiated conflict with another species. But your expansion into new territories is threatening our borders," another Elgin officer, a woman with a sharp face, countered. "We cannot stand by and watch as humanity stretches further into the galaxy without consequences." The room fell silent. Alex could feel the weight of the moment. It was clear that both sides were on the brink of something far more dangerous than a simple disagreement. He looked at Lyra, who was standing near the back of the room, her hands clasped in front of her. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a hint of sorrow in her eyes. He knew she didn't want war. She had told him as much. The conversation continued, with each side presenting their arguments, but Alex couldn't focus. He kept thinking about what Lyra had said to him. "You are the key to something much greater, something we have been waiting for." Could it be true? Could humanity really be the key to saving the galaxy, to bridging the gap between the Elgin and Earth? As the meeting drew to a close, Alex found himself walking toward Lyra, who was standing near the door. She looked up when she saw him approaching, her violet eyes softening in recognition. "Lyra," Alex said quietly, his voice full of uncertainty. "What do we do now? It feels like we're heading toward war. Can we really change their minds?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment before speaking. "Alex, we can only try. My people are divided, and I cannot speak for them all. But I believe that you, humans, can make a difference. You don't see the galaxy the way we do. You see it as a place of possibilities, of exploration, of connection. That is something we have lost." Alex swallowed, his mind racing. Could he, a single human, truly help change the course of history? The weight of the situation felt unbearable, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to be here, in this moment. "What if they don't listen?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's expression hardened. "Then we will have to make them listen." The coldness in her voice startled Alex. He had never seen Lyra like this before. It was as if the gentle, peaceful diplomat he had come to know had been replaced by someone else, someone who was ready to fight for what she believed in. "I won't let war happen," Lyra continued, her voice firm. "Not while there's a chance. Not while there's still a way to bring both sides together." Alex nodded, the weight of her words settling deep inside him. He didn't know how he could help, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to stand by and watch everything fall apart. The galaxy was at a crossroads, and humanity's place in it was uncertain. But maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to make peace. As the days passed, Alex worked tirelessly with Lyra and the other diplomats, trying to bridge the gap between the two sides. But with each passing moment, the threat of war grew stronger. The Elgin military made their intentions clear. They would not allow humanity to continue expanding unchecked. Earth, on the other hand, had no plans of backing down. Alex couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. Lyra had been right. The galaxy was waiting for something. But was it too late? Would they be able to prevent a war before it consumed everything they had worked for? The answer, Alex realized, would not come from the diplomats or military leaders. It would come from something far deeper, something that connected both species in ways they had yet to understand. The question was whether they could find that connection before it was too late. The days were passing in a blur, each one heavier than the last. The conflict between the Elgin and humanity was no longer just a distant threat. The tension between the two species was now at a boiling point, and Alex couldn't ignore the weight of it any longer. The once peaceful atmosphere aboard the research station had turned into one of constant surveillance and secretive meetings. Diplomatic talks were happening every day, but the words exchanged in those rooms seemed to do little to ease the growing fear of war. Lyra had been quiet lately, her presence in the station almost distant. Alex missed her calm, reassuring demeanor, the way she had made him feel like they could overcome anything together. But now she was often deep in discussion with the other Elgin leaders, and Alex could sense a change in her. There was something in her eyes, something that spoke of fear, of uncertainty. Alex spent hours reviewing the data, looking for a solution, anything that could end the tension. But as he sat in the control room, staring at the glowing screen before him, he couldn't shake the feeling that the solution wasn't something he would find in the numbers. It wasn't something that could be reasoned or argued. It was something deeper, something that had been hidden from both sides for far too long. That's when it happened. The station's alarms blared to life, shaking Alex out of his thoughts. His heart raced as he scrambled to his feet, his mind already running through the possibilities. A breach in security. An attack. He rushed to the control panel, his hands moving quickly over the keys. The display flashed red, signaling an incoming message. It was from Lyra. His pulse quickened as he opened the message. Her face appeared on the screen, looking more serious than he had ever seen her. Her usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by a look of urgent determination. "Alex," she said, her voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. "I need you to come to the Elgin ship. Now." Without wasting another moment, Alex grabbed his jacket and ran through the corridors of the station. The Elgin ship, docked nearby, had been a silent presence for days. No one had been allowed aboard, except for a select few diplomats. It was one of the largest ships he had ever seen, sleek and imposing, a symbol of the Elgin Empire's power. Alex had always felt uneasy around it, as though it were something far beyond his understanding. He arrived at the ship's docking bay, where a small group of Elgin soldiers stood guard. They stepped aside as Alex approached, and he quickly boarded the ship. Inside, the atmosphere was completely different from the station. The walls were lined with intricate, glowing patterns, and the air seemed to hum with an energy that Alex couldn't explain. Lyra was waiting for him in a room at the center of the ship, her expression tense. "Lyra, what's going on?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice calm. She motioned for him to sit. "I didn't want to bring you here until I was sure, but now, I need you to understand. The war, the conflict, it's not what you think." Alex frowned, confusion spreading across his face. "What do you mean?" "The Elgin military, they're preparing for war. And your people, they want peace. It doesn't make sense." Lyra sighed deeply, her eyes locking with his. "That's because you don't know the whole story. What you're seeing is a symptom of something much larger, a secret that's been kept hidden for centuries." Alex leaned forward, his mind racing. "A secret? What do you mean? What are you talking about?" "The Elgin Empire is not as united as it seems," Lyra explained. "There is a faction within the Elgin that believes the galaxy should remain as it is, under their control. They fear humanity's rapid expansion because they see it as a challenge to their power. These factions are the ones pushing for war, but they're hiding something from both you and me." Alex sat in silence, trying to process everything she had just said. "So this isn't about humanity being a threat. It's about power." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but there's more. The reason they fear humanity isn't just because of our expansion. It's because of something we've discovered, something ancient, hidden on the edge of known space. Alex's mind was spinning. What is it? What did you find? Lyra hesitated for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. The truth is, the Elgin aren't the first civilization to rise in this galaxy. There were others before us. Others who left behind traces of their technology, their knowledge. And among those traces, there is one piece of information that could change everything. Alex's heart skipped a beat. What kind of information? Lyra's eyes met his. A weapon. A weapon so powerful, it could reshape the entire galaxy. The Elgin factions that want war believe that humanity has unknowingly unlocked the key to it. They think that your potential, your ability to adapt and evolve, might be the final piece needed to activate it. Alex's mind raced. A weapon powerful enough to change the course of the galaxy. He had never imagined anything like this. So, they think we can control it. Lyra's face darkened. That's what they fear. They believe that if humanity learns of this weapon, we will use it to overpower them. And if that happens, there will be no stopping the destruction it could bring. Alex stood up, pacing the room. His thoughts were a whirlwind. Everything he had been working toward, everything he had been told, now seemed like it was just a small part of a much larger puzzle. A dangerous puzzle. We have to stop them, Alex said, his voice firm. We have to stop them from getting their hands on it. Lyra nodded. That's why I brought you here. You're the key, Alex. You're the one who can help us find the truth and stop this before it's too late. For the first time in days, Alex felt a sense of clarity. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was part of something much bigger, something that could save or destroy everything. We'll do it, Alex said, his voice full of determination. We'll find that weapon and stop them from using it. Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and hope. Together, we can change everything. Alex stood at the edge of the Elgin ship's control room, looking out at the stars. The weight of the information Lyra had shared with him felt overwhelming. Yet there was a strange sense of clarity beginning to take shape. The weapon, the galaxy-shaping power that the Elgin factions feared. It was all too much to grasp, but one thing was clear. Humanity had become the key to stopping a potential disaster. He turned back to Lyra, who was sitting at the console, her face calm but her eyes betraying a deep tension. They had a plan now. A plan to find the weapon before it could fall into the wrong hands. But the journey ahead would not be easy. The truth about the weapon was buried deep within the galaxy, hidden by an ancient civilization that had long since faded from history. No one knew where it was, or even what it truly looked like. But they had a lead, a map encoded in the Elgin archives that could point the way. Are you ready? Lyra asked, her voice steady, but Alex could see the hint of worry in her eyes. She was a leader, yes, but even she had her doubts about the road ahead. They were about to enter unknown territory, and there was no turning back once they started. I don't think we have much of a choice, Alex replied, his voice filled with determination. If we don't find it first, they will. And I don't trust anyone else to keep it safe. Lyra nodded. We will do this together. I trust you, Alex. The ship's engines hummed to life as they prepared to depart the station. The journey to the coordinates Lyra had uncovered would take them far beyond the boundaries of known space. They were heading into a region of the galaxy where few had ventured, a place filled with ancient ruins, strange anomalies, and dangers no one fully understood. As the ship passed through the outer layers of the station's atmosphere and entered the darkness of space, Alex felt a strange sense of isolation. The stars stretched out before them, cold and distant, and yet there was a certain beauty to it all. For the first time since he had joined the mission, he felt truly part of something larger than himself, a purpose beyond the exploration of science. The stakes were higher now. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. The ship glided smoothly through space, and the journey took several days. During that time, Alex and Lyra spent long hours poring over the data, trying to decipher the ancient map they had found. It was an intricate puzzle of symbols and coordinates, many of which seemed impossible to understand. But with each passing day, they grew closer to unraveling the mystery. One evening, as they sat together in the ship's research lab, Lyra suddenly stopped typing and looked up at Alex. "I think I've found something," she said, her voice filled with excitement. Alex leaned over to look at the screen, his eyes narrowing as he examined the symbols. It was an old language, one that even the Elgin had difficulty translating, but Lyra's sharp mind was making progress. The map was pointing to a specific location, a system on the edge of the galaxy, near a cluster of ancient ruins that had once belonged to a race of beings known only as the Otherans. "The Otherans?" Alex asked, his voice filled with curiosity. "I've read about them in some of the archives, but their history is mostly lost. No one really knows what happened to them." Lyra nodded. The Otherans were an incredibly advanced species. They were known for their ability to manipulate energy in ways that even the Elgin couldn't understand. But then they simply vanished, leaving behind only ruins and a few cryptic messages. The weapon we're looking for is said to be connected to them. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. If the Otherans had created such a powerful weapon, it could be far beyond anything humanity or the Elgin had ever encountered. And if it fell into the wrong hands, the consequences could be unimaginable. "How do we get there?" Alex asked. Lyra turned back to the map, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's not far, but the system is surrounded by dangerous space anomalies. We'll need to navigate through a region known as the Shadow Nebula. It's a place where the normal laws of space and time don't always apply." Alex felt a flicker of unease. The Shadow Nebula was notorious for being unpredictable. Ships that ventured too close had vanished without a trace, and many of those who had attempted to explore it had never returned. But they had no other choice. The weapon had to be found. The next few days were a blur of calculations, charts, and preparations. The closer they got to the Shadow Nebula, the more tense the atmosphere became. Alex could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. The nebula was a place where even the most advanced ships could lose their way, where time itself seemed to twist and bend. As they entered the nebula, the ship's instruments began to malfunction. The stars outside blurred into a strange, shifting pattern, and the usual hum of the ship's engines became distorted, as though the very fabric of space was warping around them. "Stay focused," Lyra said, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. "We need to keep a steady course. If we stray too far, we could get lost in the nebula." Alex nodded, gripping the edge of his seat as the ship continued its journey through the shifting clouds of gas and dust. The strange feeling of being disconnected from reality seemed to intensify, and for a moment, Alex wondered if they would ever make it out. But Lyra's confidence kept him grounded. She was the one who had studied the Shadow Nebula for years, and she knew the risks. Hours turned into days as they carefully navigated through the nebula's twists and turns. The ship's instruments were nearly useless, and they had to rely on their instincts to guide them. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, the nebula began to thin out. Ahead of them, through the haze of gas and starlight, Alex could see the first signs of the ancient Otheran ruins. The ruins stretched across a small moon orbiting a dark, gas giant, their structures appearing both alien and ancient. "We're here," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with awe. Alex looked out at the ruins, his heart pounding in his chest. They had made it, but what awaited them there? What secrets would they uncover? And more importantly, would they be able to stop the Elgin factions from using the weapon before it was too late? The answers lay ahead, and Alex knew that the most dangerous part of their journey was only just beginning. The ancient Otheran ruins loomed ahead, half hidden in the shadow of the massive gas giant. Their broken structures stood like silent sentinels, ancient but enduring against the dark backdrop of space. The ship's sensors barely registered anything as they approached. An eerie silence filled the air. It was as if the ruins themselves were holding their breath, waiting. Alex and Lyra stood at the observation window, staring out at the scene. The ship was in orbit around the moon now, hovering above a landscape of jagged cliffs and ruined buildings. The structures were like nothing Alex had ever seen before, towering monoliths of strange materials that shimmered under the light of the distant stars. "This place, it feels different," Alex said softly, his eyes scanning the desolate surface. "Like it's alive, but just barely." Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed on the ruins below. The Othrans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. They had an understanding of energy that we can't even begin to comprehend. Some say they could manipulate the very fabric of space itself, but their power came at a cost. No one knows what happened to them, why they vanished so suddenly. Alex felt a shiver run through him. The idea of an entire civilization disappearing left him uneasy. What had they discovered? What had they created? And more importantly, what did humanity and the Elgin risk if they couldn't stop it? "We'll need to be careful," Lyra said, breaking his thoughts. "The ruins are unstable. There may be traps or worse, but we have no choice. The weapon we're looking for could be hidden among these ruins." The ship landed softly on the moon's surface, the landing gear pressing into the rocky terrain. Alex and Lyra gathered their equipment in silence. The air inside the ship was thin, and the gravity was weak, but they both knew what was at stake. They suited up, preparing for the unknown. Once outside, the coldness of space hit them, and they quickly made their way toward the largest structure in the center of the ruins. The path was littered with fragments of old technology, cracked and broken pieces that once served some purpose, now reduced to rubble. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of their footsteps on the dusty ground. As they approached the entrance of the structure, Lyra stopped. She placed a hand on a strange glowing symbol etched into the stone. "This," she whispered, "this is Othran technology. The way it works, it's not like anything we've seen before. This symbol is a key." Alex watched as Lyra activated the symbol, and the entrance of the structure slowly began to open, revealing a long, dark corridor inside. The air was cool and stale, and the scent of age filled their nostrils as they stepped inside. The walls of the corridor were covered with intricate carvings, symbols that seemed to move when Alex looked at them. They were beautiful but unsettling, depicting scenes of the Othran people in various stages of their civilization, their achievements, and their eventual decline. At the far end of the corridor, a faint light flickered, drawing them forward. "Do you think the weapon is here?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra nodded, her eyes focused on the light. "It has to be. This is where their most important discoveries were made. But we need to be careful. The Othrans left behind more than just their knowledge. Some of their creations, they were dangerous." The further they walked, the more the corridor seemed to close in on them, as though the walls themselves were watching. Strange, humming sounds echoed from the deeper recesses of the structure, and Alex could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. There was something alive in this place, something ancient, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. They reached the source of the light, a large chamber, its floor covered with strange, glowing crystals. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and upon it was a small, intricately carved box. The box pulsed with an eerie energy, and the air around it seemed to shimmer. Alex could feel the power radiating from it, a presence so strong it almost hurt to be near. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice full of awe. "The weapon, or at least, the key to it." Alex stepped forward cautiously, his eyes fixed on the box. He felt a deep unease, as though the very act of touching it would change everything. "Is it safe?" he asked, his voice tight. Lyra hesitated. "I don't know. The Othrans used it to control unimaginable power, but no one knows exactly how it works. It's a piece of their technology, something beyond even their own understanding. Alex reached out slowly, his fingers brushing the surface of the box. As soon as he touched it, the room seemed to pulse, and a low hum filled the air. The box glowed brighter, and the walls around them began to shift, as though reacting to their presence. A loud, echoing crash rang through the chamber, and Alex spun around, his heart racing. The walls were collapsing. The very structure of the room was coming apart. It was as if the Othrans had set a failsafe, a trap to protect their secrets. "We need to get out of here," Lyra shouted, grabbing Alex by the arm. "Now." Without thinking, they turned and ran toward the corridor they had come through. The walls were crumbling, and chunks of stone fell from above. The sound of the destruction was deafening, and Alex could feel the ship's gravity pull him down harder as they sprinted, trying to reach the entrance. They were almost there when the ground beneath them shook violently. Alex lost his footing and stumbled, but Lyra caught him just in time. "Keep going," Lyra urged, her voice strained. "We're almost out." They ran, breathless, as the ruins seemed to collapse around them. The ship was still waiting, just a few hundred meters away. They could see it now, its landing ramp extended, ready for their escape. The entrance to the structure was almost within reach when a massive explosion shook the ground, sending them both tumbling forward. Alex felt himself being thrown through the air, his head hitting the ground hard. He struggled to regain his senses, his vision swimming. Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Alex, Alex, wake up." He blinked, dazed, and saw her standing over him, pulling him up. The ruins were falling apart, the ground beneath them shaking violently. The ship, safety, was so close. Together, they made one final sprint toward the ship, barely making it inside before the last of the structure collapsed behind them. The ship lifted off the ground, the ancient ruins of the Othrans now lost to the void of space. As they soared away from the moon, Alex could still feel the weight of the weapon's power, and he knew that their journey was far from over. The weapon was just a key to something much greater, and the danger it represented was only beginning to unfold. But for now, they had escaped. For now, they were alive. As the ship soared away from the collapsing ruins, Alex and Lyra sat in the cockpit, catching their breath. The Othran moon shrank behind them, swallowed by the darkness of space. The ancient weapon, if it could even be called that, rested on the control panel between them, its intricate carvings glowing faintly. It looked fragile, but the power radiating from it was anything but. "This thing, it's not just a weapon," Alex finally said, staring at the small artifact. "It's something else." Lyra nodded. "It's a control device. The Othrans built something powerful, something capable of reshaping entire worlds, maybe even space itself. And this is the key to activating it." Alex ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. If the Rom people got their hands on it, they could wipe out entire civilizations. But if they destroyed it, they might be erasing the one thing that could protect humanity from threats beyond the stars. Before they could decide what to do next, an alarm blared through the ship. "Multiple ships incoming," Lyra said, her voice tense. "It's the Elgin faction. They found us." Alex clenched his fists. He had known this moment was coming. The Elgin warlords had been chasing the weapon for years, and now they were here to take it. The ship rocked as enemy vessels surrounded them, cutting off any chance of escape. A deep guttural voice crackled through the ship's communicator. "Human vessel, surrender the artifact, and we will let you live." Lyra turned to Alex. "They won't let us live." Alex exhaled sharply. "Then we fight." Lyra's fingers flew over the controls, engaging the ship's defenses. Outside, the Elgin warships positioned themselves for attack. Energy cannons charged, and the cold silence of space became a battlefield. The first blast struck the ship's shields, shaking the entire cockpit. Alex strapped in, gripping the controls. "We can't outrun them," he said. "But maybe we can outthink them." Lyra's mind raced. The artifact. It interacts with energy fields. If I can amplify its signal through the ship's core, I might be able to disrupt their systems. "That's risky," Alex said. "It's our only chance." Alex nodded. "Do it." Lyra grabbed the artifact and sprinted to the ship's reactor. Alex maneuvered the ship, dodging enemy fire as best as he could. Another blast rocked the hull, and alarms blared in protest. "Hurry, Lyra," he shouted. Lyra reached the reactor room and placed the artifact onto the ship's energy grid. As soon as it touched the panel, a wave of blue light rippled through the ship. The control systems flickered, then stabilized. Outside, the enemy ships hesitated, their weapons stalling for a brief second. Alex saw his chance. He pushed the thrusters to maximum, diving through the fleet in a risky maneuver. The enemy ships tried to react, but their systems were still struggling against the artifact's interference. Come on," Alex muttered, weaving through the chaos. Suddenly, one of the warships recovered and fired a direct hit. The ship spun wildly, alarms blaring. Alex fought for control. "Lyra, whatever you're doing, we need more power." Lyra gritted her teeth, pressing her hand against the artifact. The ship pulsed again, and this time, a massive energy wave burst outward. The Elgin ships around them flickered and lost power, their weapons shutting down completely. It worked, Alex shouted. But something was wrong. The artifact was growing brighter, its energy spiraling out of control. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's destabilizing the ship. We have to get rid of it." Alex hesitated. This was the key to unimaginable power. Was it really right to destroy it? Lyra looked at him. "Alex, we can't let anyone use it. Not them, not us. We don't understand what it's capable of. The Othrans vanish because of it. If we keep it, the same could happen to us." Alex took a deep breath. She was right. He grabbed the artifact, feeling the sheer force vibrating through his fingers. With one final decision, he activated the emergency airlock. The hatch hissed open, revealing the endless void beyond. Alex held up the artifact one last time. "Goodbye," he whispered, and then threw it into space. The moment it left his hands, it pulsed one last time before vanishing into the darkness. The energy surge disappeared. The Elgin ships, powerless, began to drift. And the battle was over. Lyra collapsed against the control panel, exhausted. Alex sat beside her, breathing heavily. "You did the right thing," she said softly. Alex looked out into space. "I hope so." Their ship, battered but still flying, moved away from the battlefield. The Othran secret was lost once again, hidden where no one would find it. For now, the galaxy was safe. But deep down, Alex knew this was only the beginning.